It's my feel-good breakfast show.
You're still locked in. It's your feel-good breakfast show, and I know a lot of gamers out there are going to have some nostalgia because the Crash Bandicoot series was undoubtedly one of the all-time favorite video game titles of the 90s. And now, after a 20-year hiatus of the main storyline, Crash Bandicoot is back, and Gareth Woods is joining us to review the newly released Crash Bandicoot 4. How you doing, brother? How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. It was a major dip into nostalgia, being able to play Crash again.
The title of today, Crash Bandicoot 4, does it maintain a lot of those 90s vibe aesthetics? And does the game stack up well against some of the surreal graphics and everything else that it's competing with around the world?
First and foremost, I think they've done a great job of paying tribute to kind of the 90s style of the game, but updating it with a lot of quality of life that, to be honest, gamers have now gotten accustomed to. For one, they've actually got a modern mode where you don't have this thing of like, every time you die, you start at the beginning and then you eventually run out of lives and then you either continue or give up. As kind of, you forget, 90s games were really difficult. Whereas now you've kind of gotten used to this idea of when you get to a checkpoint, your progress is saved and you can kind of continue from that checkpoint, with unlimited lives. The other thing that's really great is they've kind of taken into account the way your buddies kind of were playing the game, which was this sort of hot seat, kind of pass the controller every time either you died or you reached a checkpoint. You can actually play, I think it's called pass and play, where you either set every death or every checkpoint that you kind of like, it switches to a player up to 1 to 4. So you can kind of go, okay, cool, you play until you die, then you pass the controller to your buddy, and it kind of tracks that player 2 is now playing. So at the end, you kind of have this bragging rights as to who was the fastest or who got the most mangoes or boxes or whatever. So it's great that they know that that's how people are playing the game anyway, and they've kind of incorporated it.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I think 90s kids back in the day, we so needed something like that to stop all those arguments about who was better. It's your turn to give it off. But look, what has changed since then? I mean, what new elements have been incorporated into this new version?
Okay, so obviously, the graphics have a huge update, and I don't just mean the quality of the graphics. They've also kind of redone the aesthetic of the game to kind of bring it up to date, to kind of more futuristic feel. But in that, they've also really taken advantage of some of the kind of physics and that's available at the moment. So not to give too much of the story away, Crash is trying to get these quantum masks because the bad guys have ripped a hole in the space-time continuum. And while that's also a story mechanic, they use that kind of quantum masks that he kind of gets these power-ups that allow him to do certain things that one wasn't able to do on the previous consoles because maybe they didn't have the processing power. But you're now able to like shift between different realities and kind of slow time down and walk on the ceiling using kind of anti-gravity boots. And you kind of imagine that's really taking advantage of a lot of the physics engines that have developed over 20 years. So they've really done a great job of paying credit to the history of the game, at the same time, like upgrading it.
So it sounds like Crash has got some new skills. But now listen, the traditional Crash games are well known for their difficult and fast-paced levels. And you mentioned earlier, and I also do remember, you had like 4 or 5 lives max and you kind of had to get to the whole game. And when you did actually do that, it was quite an honor. And when you head to the playground the next day, it was a good thing for bragging rights. But is this still the case with Crash 4?
Yeah, so you can still play it in classic mode where it's like that with the lives. Otherwise, you play in the modern mode, as I mentioned, where you've got unlimited lives. Where they've kind of amped the difficulty or paid tribute to that is that there's still a whole bunch of collectibles. So you can finish the stage is one thing, but then there's kind of 6 diamonds you can collect to kind of fully unlock the stage, and you get a new skin for your character each time you do that. So it's kind of got the almost guaranteed bragging right of, you could tell your friends you could do it. But let's be honest, back then you didn't have replayers or the internet to like record your videos on YouTube. So you just had to kind of trust or not trust them. Now, if your character's wearing that skin, well, then you definitely did what you said you did.
That's pretty cool. I think it's even more reason to continue playing the game over and over, which I know everybody loves. But Gareth, you've been through it all. What is your final verdict? Does it stamp your boxes of approval, and are you pleased?
Look, I'm a huge platforming fan, just as a genre, I love it. And I think that the space has been really dominated by, let's be honest, the Mario games of the world, and to less extent, Sonic the Hedgehog and the like. So it's good to see Crash back. I didn't really play much on kind of PlayStation 1 or 2 days because I didn't have my own, but I remember fondly going to friends' house and playing it there. And it really brings back, like you said, to those days of sharing a controller with mates, having some fun, laughing at the ridiculous kind of like mishaps that happen. I think from a graphical point of view, they've really stepped up the game. All in all, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. And if you're a Crash fan, you could probably add an extra 1 onto that rating because it really does kind of, scratch all the right itches in terms of a nostalgia feel as well.
Well, Gareth, thank you so much for joining us this morning and just giving us that little extra bit of nostalgia, man. We can't thank you enough.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
All right, well, to the rest of you beautiful people, let us know if 90s gaming is your vibe. And of course, let us know on our Expresso Facebook pages and use that hashtag Expresso Show. Have a beautiful one.